everybody, it's Allie, and welcome to our Y&R Chat for Sunday, June 18th, 2017. Sharon and Scott are giving us some summer heat. I like it. I'm kind of into it. I was not entirely sold on Sharon and Scott up until this week, and I'm still a little bit on the fence in some ways, but the moment that she decided to just rip his shirt open and go for it, I thought, all right, I'm gonna get on this ride and I'm gonna be here for it. I'm gonna go on this journey. I think it's probably because that is such a soapy move that she just grabbed his shirt and just ripped it wide open, buttons flying in every direction, and I love that reckless abandon that I do not have in my life. I would immediately, if I became so overwhelmed with passion that I decided to rip open someone's shirt, I would immediately snap to and feel terrible that I've ruined their shirt. And likewise, if someone did it to me, it would pull me out of the moment. I would be on the floor picking up buttons and like, why would you do this to my shirt? I like this shirt. Obviously, this is a good shirt, or I wouldn't be wearing it to a date. Oh, but I liked it. I liked that Sharon was hungry enough to just go for it. I'm along for the ride, and I am wondering if you guys are here for it too. So that's our poll question for the week. Sharon and Scott, are you feeling the heat? You can go to yrchat.com and vote in our poll and leave some comments and let me know if you are thinking that Sharon and Scott have any kind of chemistry. Do you think it's there? And if so, do you think that this couple has any kind of long-term potential, or maybe it's just a short summer fling? I don't know that Sharon and Scott are going to be one of my all-time favorite long-term super couples. That's not really even where I think that Y&R is planning to take them. In a way, I feel like Scott is there to pull Sharon out of the funk that kind of became her life. She went through this really traumatic experience with Christian, and then another traumatic experience on top of that, losing Dylan, and Sharon would have every reason to sink to the depths of despair and depression, and instead she first picked herself up out of that, decided to go back to college, and then decided to allow herself to be a little happy with a guy who may or may not turn out to be a future husband. And I don't even think we need to be thinking about that. I think we need to look at the Sharon and Scott relationship. This is just my perspective on it, of course. I think we just need to look at it for where it is, what it is. Maybe it's just some summer fun, and maybe that's all it ever was intended to be. I liked and had fun watching Sharon prep for her date. It was adorable. I mean, apparently, by the way, Sharon could give Phyllis a few pointers on how to make a souffle. Apparently, Sharon has no problem getting her souffle to rise. I liked that she was going to the trouble of making this perfect dinner for her and Scott, and it was really, really cute that Mariah came over and the two girls were just sitting at the dining room table going through her makeup bag. I loved that she pulled out all of these Kleenexes out of her makeup bag. That's a very real moment, and she's looking for the perfect lipstick. It was a very role reversal moment that's become characteristic of Mariah and Sharon's relationship, where the daughter is acting more like a mother and the mother is acting more like a daughter. It just seemed like something that a mom would do with her teen, help her pick out the right lipstick for a date. Maybe something that Lily would be doing with Maddie. And then I find that at least a little bit charming, and I mean, it's the nature of who Mariah and Sharon are, and I thought it was charming. Mariah snuck out of the house just as Scott was sneaking in, and the stage was pretty much set for them to take things to the next level. I wonder if Sharon knew in her mind that this was gonna be the night. I wonder if she had prepared herself for that fully, knowing that they were gonna go all the way, or if it really did happen spontaneously. But she made the dinner, he brought the wine, and it just happened like a spark. The only thing left for them really to do was to just gobble each other up. I mean, Sharon practically jumped his bones. She might as well have just leapt onto him. Oh, I get the sense that it must be lonely for Sharon out there at the ranch in that big old house at night. It's all empty. I don't even know, is Faith living with her anymore? I'm not sure. Sharon seems maybe a little lonely out there. And so when it came time to really give in to the passion, she really gave in to the passion. They went up, they took the party upstairs in her bedroom, and there was this shot of them making love, and Sharon digging her claws and bringing them all the way down Scott's back, and you could even see that his skin was starting to turn red from it. Sharon was hungry. And not for that souffle. Forget that souffle. Sharon needed her some man. Oh, they must have rocked that house all night long. And in the morning, when she woke up, she was in the bed alone. And there was a feeling, I think, to her of, oh no, did Scott come to regret it? Did he decide that this was a bad idea? And did he leave? No. She walks downstairs and he's down there in the kitchen making eggs. I think that Scott seems like a genuinely nice guy. He's not what I would have expected him to be. I think that Scott does want some kind of a home now. They talked a little bit even about him toying with the idea of settling down. He admires that Sharon has roots in this town and that she's doing the traditional family thing. Scott has been all over the world. He's seen things that most people don't get to see, and it's that sense of going all the way around the world and that road leading right back home, realizing that maybe that's what you wanted and needed all along. And I think that maybe that's where Scott's head is. I think maybe he is thinking that he would like to stay in Genoa City. He would like to pursue a real relationship with Sharon, and whether or not that really does end up working out, I thought it was nice to see Sharon positively glowing. It must have been good. She must have gotten what she needed because she seemed very happy. Oh. Lauren was not so happy about it, by the way. Scott did not come home last night, and she's very concerned. I'm sure that you never really stop worrying about your kids, no matter how old they are. So I'm gonna give Lauren a little bit of leeway, and as far as not being an overbearing mother, I think she was just feeling hopeful that everything was okay with Scott, but she knew in the back of her mind that he was with Sharon, that he had spent the night with Sharon. So as soon as Scott comes through the door, she did put the screws to him just a little bit and ask him about where he was and say, do you know what Sharon did? I mean, do you know about Sharon's past? And he said, yeah, I do. I know what happened with Christian. Am I gonna let that be the only part of her that I see? No, I'm gonna see her for the person that I see. I'm gonna use my own judgment here when it comes to Sharon, when it comes to all of the things that she's been through, and specifically what happened with Christian. I really liked and hadn't thought about the fact that Lauren made the parallel of Sharon baby stealing. Wait, I don't even think that's a appropriate way to characterize what happened with Christian. That almost seems like it's putting it in a box that she just stole Sage's baby. That's not exactly what happened. There was a lot of other factors and emotions, and the fact that she lived with the child and thought as if he were his for a long time. And the fact that Lauren made that connection to what happened with her and Sheila and Scott. I really hadn't thought much about that, but it is a good connection to make. They're very different situations. What happened with Sheila was entirely malicious. What happened with Sharon was not, but I think it's great that Y&R brought that into the fold, especially at a time when they can tie it in so easily with Bold and the Beautiful. Does everyone know, do Y&R fans know that Sheila is back on the Bold and the Beautiful? I am always a week behind on the Bold and the Beautiful, so all I know is that Sheila is back. I've seen just 2 episodes, the reveal and then the following episode, which hasn't given us very much information, but it's really an interesting summer twist. From what I've read in my CBS Soaps in Depth sites and all of that, Bold and the Beautiful kept this a secret by disguising Kimberlin Brown to bring her in for filming her scenes. How soapy is that? She's back on the show. It was a huge surprise to all of the fans. It would be a really great time to tie it in with Y&R, wouldn't it? As far as I know, the last time that Sheila appeared in the CBS soap universe was when she had had her plastic surgery to make it look like she was Michelle Stafford's Phyllis. Now, the only thing I saw and the only thing I know as far as Sheila's return is when questioned about the fact that she's supposedly dead, Lauren shot her. And so I'm wondering, the only thing she really said was that all of that was rumors. I'm wondering if we're going to do a little retcon here, rewrite the history, make it seem like that whole thing was somebody else other than Sheila. I'm not sure because I'm about a week behind, but I wanted to bring it up because it is an appropriate tie-in with Y&R, and it's only a couple of steps between Genoa City and LA, so you never know if that is gonna come to play. If Sheila is also filming some scenes and we could see her pop up on Y&R, or if we might see Lauren pop up on The Bold and the Beautiful, it makes sense at a time when all grown-up Scott is on the show that Sheila might show some interest in that. So I don't know, I wanted to mention it because I think it's a really great tie-in, and if there are any Y&R fans out there who are looking for a new short show to pick up, now would be a great time for you to become a Bold and the Beautiful fan too. It is a little ironic that Sharon mentioned this week how Tessa could be a gold digger. She expressed a little bit of concern about that. And it's funny considering that's exactly what Nikki thought of her when she came into Nick's life. Sharon, like Lauren, is of course trying not to butt into her son's life, but she also doesn't want to ignore red flags. I think because Sharon has been in the positions that she's been in, she knows red flags and she wants to point them out. And Tessa runs into the tech guy, the app developer, whose name is Zach, and he is at Crimson Lights at the coffee house. She can't avoid him. They see each other, they make eye contact, and so Tessa confronts him, and he pretty much tells her, I'm not here for you. I'm not following you. I don't really want to have anything to do with you. There was a feeling that both of them wanted nothing more. They wanted nothing more than to just put distance between them and a bad thing. So I guess whatever, neither of them say what it is, so whatever happened in Chicago stays in Chicago. We're not privy to that information at this point. I'm sure it's going to be revealed down the road. Tessa seems to feel very freed by this now, knowing that he's not there trailing her. She, I believe, feels ready now to have that new life that she has been saying that she wants, to have that fresh start that she came to Genoa City for. She decides to accept Devon's offer on the music contract, but the weird thing is that she goes back to Noah and tells him, yeah, you know, all of that drama that I was terrified about last week, it's really no big deal. I probably made it seem like bigger than it was, and it's really not. Maybe you misinterpreted it. It's everything's fine. I feel chill. I feel good. And Noah realizes, wait a minute, that doesn't seem right. So I think the red flags are starting to develop for Noah all on his own, and he acknowledged this week that he's had some bad luck with relationships. He's had most of the women that he's gotten involved with that were also involved in something shady. And so thank goodness we're seeing some character growth here, and Noah's not just going to be blindly going into a relationship with her without asking questions. The other thing was that Sharon saw the interaction between Tessa and Zach at the coffee house, and she could tell that something was up there, although she also doesn't know what it is. But Sharon hips Scott to all of this, talking about it in context of her son and not wanting to butt in, but having questions, real questions about Tessa. But she also, having grilled a little bit Zach at the coffee house, let Scott know that this whole big pet project that Abby has been working on is a dating app. And Scott thought that was rich. It was something that Sharon mentioned offhand, not knowing that Scott didn't realize it, but as soon as she said that, you could see Scott's eyes rolling, saying, Abby thinks that what she's doing is so innovative and so great, and she thinks she is little Miss Everything at Newman Enterprises, and she's working on a dating app. That's not nearly as great as my revolutionary new media company called Hashtag. So Victor puts Scott in charge of the new Newman media that they've named Hashtag. I think this is a terrible name, right? Is this the worst name? It's so niche. It's going to be relevant for only a small portion of time. Hashtags are not going to be the thing for, in 10 years. So I don't know why you would pigeonhole yourself with a name like that. But then again, it'll probably go away. We won't have Hashtag forever. And I imagine we won't have GC Buzz forever either. I think that name might be worse. I don't know which name is worse, Hashtag or GC Buzz. You can tell me what you think, or maybe you like it. I don't know. But the war is on at this point between Abby and Scott. Although I think that Scott is not what Abby needs to be concerned about. I don't think that Scott is her real enemy. I think that Abby is putting herself in a world of danger, intentionally or not intentionally, on Zach's part. I think that getting involved with Zach in the first place, whatever it was that he and Tessa were involved in, they may not want to come back on them, but I think that it's going to come back on them, and Abby's gonna get all caught up. She is mixing business with pleasure at this point. She had an awkward, I think, date with Zach. He has something about him, it just radiates creepiness to me. I don't know if it's the way he's trying to be so smooth or what, but something about it doesn't feel right, and Abby doesn't see that. She thinks she's on top of the world. She's developing a new project. She's getting to know the app developer, and I think that Scott is going to end up rescuing her from whatever it is that Zach brings upon her. And I think Scott's going to end up falling in love in the process. Didn't he already say that that happened to him when he was off reporting? He got involved with a woman who was in need of help, and he ended up rescuing her and falling in love with her. And I think that history is about to repeat itself. And as it pertains to Sharon and Scott's relationship, I would, once again, I'm not sure that Sharon and Scott have long-term staying power, although I really do like them as a summer couple. So if Sharon and Scott decide mutually and part on good terms, that, you know, thinking maybe this is not a long-term thing, then I'm okay with him transitioning over to Abby. There's just too much tension between him and Abby to be anything other than romance for the future. I wonder how good Abby is at making a souffle rise. Standout scene of the week for me, an Abbott family retrospective. We are transported back to the 1960s, I think, where a young John Abbott is taking the phone call from Dina saying that she's leaving, and then John has to turn around and tell young Jack that his mom isn't coming back. It was really well done, I thought. The actor who played young John really looked like he could have been young John Abbott. I thought that was an interesting choice. I didn't realize that we were going to be seeing a sequence of these young Jack memories, and I think that it's turned out really well, and it's helped me dig into where Jack's head is now, but it also makes me think about where his head has been in the past. Jack had a lot of weight that fell on his shoulders after his mom left, and that must have been tremendous. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, in the blink of an eye, a little boy is now being asked to do a man's job. Jack has to help run the household, to help look after his sisters, to be a good example, and then later he has to turn that around and try to do the same thing at Gibeau in business. And I think that also put into perspective his character and some of the decisions that he's made in his life, some of the decisions that he's made when it comes to his business, why that business is so important to him, why family is so important to him. He remarks this week that when your own mother turns her back on you, who do you trust? Who do you trust? And I think that line really helped put into focus who Jack is and why he feels the way he does. It was really sad, and I thought really poignant, and yet it just really explained a lot for me. So Dina is on the verge of leaving again. She's been saying she's gonna leave town here for weeks, it seems, and Graham is there to remind her that is the mission they need to accomplish. She doesn't really want to leave, but she has this sense that she has to. It doesn't seem to me like it's about Graham's agenda. At this point, having seen it for 2 weeks, it really does seem like it's Dina's agenda to leave, and Graham is put there to help her enact it. In fact, she tells him this week, there was a moment where she said, "Don't worry, I know that you're not being overprotective. You're just doing a job that I've given you." So in my mind, I'm thinking that Dina, for some reason, needs and has hired or employed Graham to keep her focused on the task at hand, which is getting in and out of Genoa City as painlessly as possible. But the situation does end up allowing for a change of plans this week. After Dina is set to go, car is waiting. Abby finds out that her grandmother is leaving. After the big speech about wanting to get to know you and wanting to develop a relationship, Dina is hopping out of town. And that right there is what happened to the Abbott children. And Abby is thinking, is this who you are? You come into our lives, you get involved with us, and then you just run away? And I think Dina doesn't want to be seen like that. She doesn't want to repeat that past mistake with Abby in the same way that she did with her own children. And it seemed like Graham really understood that there was a feeling here that was bigger than the task at hand, and she needed to stay and to still work on this. So Dina decides to stay. Graham out of nowhere announces this to Ashley and Victor, who happens to be there having a drink with Ashley, and everyone is very happy about this. Everyone wants Dina to stay, and no one can really understand the reason why she's not. Jack even asks her to move in with him. He's like, bring your golf clubs, bring your tennis racket, come live at the mansion with me. And she says no. It's clear that she's very touched by the offer, but she can't do it for some reason. She says that it's about being in the house, not wanting to drudge up all of those old memories, but there is some kind of tangible reason why she's not allowing herself to become too close to her children, and I can't think of any other reason that makes as much sense than if it was Alzheimer's or dementia or something. There's something there, and I don't know what it is. Graham is certainly not holding her hostage. The more and more I get the feeling that Graham is on the up and up, unless I'm wrong. Ashley did ask Ravi to do an internet search on Graham. I was thinking that weeks ago. If we're so questionable about who this guy is, why don't we look him up online? And that really didn't get pursued. They had the internet search screen pulled up, but nobody seemed to really follow through on trying to find out who Graham really is to investigate this connection. It's getting on my nerves a little bit that every week it's one step forward and two steps back as far as finding out who this guy is. I am kind of wondering if maybe next week Ravi's gonna come running around the corner with a stack of printouts telling us that he's done some research on Graham, and I don't know, is he a good guy, is he a bad guy? I don't know how it's all gonna play out, but I think that somehow Graham is going to end up giving Ravi a run for his money. I don't know if you are picking up on that vibe as well, but just like Abby and Scott, the tension between Ashley and Graham is just too good to not blossom into something more, maybe a triangle. Ashley sits down with Graham again this week to try to get on better footing. I think she's being nice like a fox, trying to draw information out of him, but he's really not giving it. The only thing he said was insisting that whatever the connection is between he and Dina, it is not romantic, but he still reveals nothing about what that connection really is. Kevin sneaks into the doctor's house this week to find Chloe, and I guess I need to correct myself here. Maybe I was misunderstanding what was going on with the situation between Chloe and Victor. It sounds more now like the entire plan was more Chloe's than Victor's. I don't know. I feel a little lost in this story. What I was getting this week was basically that when Chloe originally was released from the mental hospital before Adam died, and I don't even really remember Chloe being legally committed to a mental hospital, was she? I thought it was a voluntary commitment. I seem to remember her leaving town just saying, I need some time to myself, but apparently she was committed to that mental hospital, and this doctor that we're seeing now released her by signing papers that he knew he shouldn't have signed in exchange for a big fat Victor payoff. Now again, all of this is going on before Adam died, and apparently the doctor took the money and ran, but always felt bad about it. And then after he found out that Chloe killed Adam, he felt really bad about it. And then after everything went down with Chloe and Kevin at their wedding, after Victor tracked her down, then they came back to the doctor for help. I'm guessing here, this is just what I've been able to put together. And now that Chloe has gone off book and decided to clue Kevin into this whole thing, I guess the doctor feels it's best to keep Victor out of it. Is that right? Am I anywhere in the ballpark here? Feel free to correct me, because I feel confused, and I'm not sure if I'm confused because it's confusing or if I'm confused because I don't care. I'm sorry. It just is not feeling right to me. And on top of it all, in Chloe's mind, this is unbelievable. Kevin's not even there to rescue her. That's what I thought last week the point was. He's not there to rescue her and take her away from this doctor and this oppressive situation between the doctor and Victor. Chloe wants, what she wants is for all three of them to live together. She wants Kevin to move in with her and the doctor. What? Obviously, Chloe is still nuts. How does this situation suit anyone? And why would the doctor allow Chloe, why would he allow her, basically her boyfriend, to move in with him? I don't know. I don't understand. None of this makes sense to me. The only thing I can offer by way of maybe a prediction is I just keep thinking that we've got a crazy lady, we've got a hermit doctor, we've got a gun, and all three of these people in close quarters. Something is telling me that this doctor is going to be dead meat. Kane Ashby was a mastermind for 1 week in LA. And before that, and after that, he's a mess. Kane is a mess. I love Kane, and I'm having a really hard time justifying his actions right now. I've been holding out hope that he didn't really sleep with Juliet, that he was drugged or duped or something, and now I'm not even so sure of that. Maybe he's just a dummy. I really wish he would have just let the lawyers handle this whole situation. Michael made a really great point at the initial meeting with the judge this week that Juliet wasn't even a permanent employee of Brash and Sassy when Tokyo happened, and Kane wasn't her superior. Plus, this whole case is just a matter of he said, she said. There is no evidence. There are no witnesses. There's nothing. Leslie really doesn't have a case. But just like he's done over the past couple of months, ever since Tokyo happened and he found out about it or realized it or remembered it, Kane cannot let it go. Kane cannot stop picking at the scab. He confronts Juliet when he should have just left it alone. He tries to appeal to her. I'm not going to say that he didn't do a good job at that, because he did do a good job of presenting his case, saying, why are you doing this? I thought we were friends. I did try to help you, and look what you're doing to me. You're destroying my family. Is that really what you want? And you are going to be inadvertently destroying your own reputation by doing this. Do you know who the Newmans are? Do you know that they will come at you with everything that they've got, which is a lot? You are going to be dragged through the mud. You are never going to work again. I think that was a compelling argument. It's an argument, though, that a neutral party really should have had with Juliet. It should not have been Kane. The one interesting thing, though, in that scene, too, is it does feel to me like maybe he's now admitting that it happened. He's at least accepting that it happened, and that is what pulled me out of thinking maybe he was drugged or that there was something more to it. Maybe it really is face value, and I've just been holding out hope because I love to wait for a twist, and also I love Kane, and I want to love Kane, but I don't know, maybe he just did this thing, but Kane insists that it could in no way, everything that happened in Tokyo could in no way be construed as sexual harassment. And we did a poll last week. I asked you guys if you felt like on any level Julie had a legitimate case for sexual harassment against Kane, against Brush and Sassy. 69% of you said no way. So it was a really clear majority. Everyone seems to agree that Juliet doesn't have a case, although 31% is still pretty strong considering. But to me, it doesn't feel like it's legitimate at all. I voted no on that poll. I think that there's just no way that Juliet is not aware that she's lying or at least painting an incomplete or untruthful picture here. Actually, if you go to the website at Y&RChat.com, Superplex took the time to do a really good recap of the events that happened in Tokyo and the way it unfolded, right up into the point where Juliet got the job and et cetera, because it's easy to forget when you're watching it week by week. So if you go to the website and read that, thank you, Superplex. That was a really good recap. So if you kind of are fuzzy on what happened at the time, it just seems to me that Juliet is bitter toward Victoria and Billy because she did, lose her job over something that she didn't really do, but she's taking it out on Kane because that incident with Kane is the only ammo she's got. It would have been smarter, though, to at least try to go for a wrongful termination suit or something. I don't know why she chose the sexual harassment angle, if not just to drag Kane through the mud out of vindictiveness. I don't get to have my dream job, and so I don't want you to be happy either. It sounds like Victoria gave her a very nice severance check that should at least cover getting her back to Tokyo or covering her debts or whatever need be. I have completely lost my ability to identify with Juliet when she's doing something so vindictive. And there was a moment when Kane was talking to her where she seemed to realize that what she was doing was wrong. And she actually took the step of calling Leslie and trying to break it off, trying to break out the case. But as soon as Leslie hears that the reason Juliet had this change of heart was because Kane paid a visit to her in her hotel room, Leslie was like a dog with a bone. She realized that Kane, the fool, just made her case much stronger. It was flimsy, and now she's got something to work with. It makes it look from the outside like Kane was coming in to intimidate Juliet, or maybe even further offer her something, or at the very least that Kane has something to hide. If there was absolutely nothing between he and Juliet, then he would have just let it go. He would have just let the lawyers handle it, and he would have blown it off like, yeah, this is a crazy person, it'll all come out in court. But it makes Kane look guilty of something that he went to go see her, and Leslie picked up on that right away. I mean, he does have something to hide. Michael and Billy and Victoria, when they found out that Kane did that, were pissed. Not only did Kane screw up by going rogue on and meeting with Juliet, but it also came out in that initial meeting with the judge that Juliet played an integral role in landing that Asian deal when they were in Tokyo, that Kane basically screwed up and Juliet saved him. Victoria didn't know anything about that Kane almost blew it. So it kind of, again, makes Kane look like he was using her if you were looking at it from a juror or a judge perspective. I mean, it may not amount to anything on a case, but it at least gives Leslie a little bit more ammo. Now, Michael suggests that the best and only thing that they can do at this point is to try to move forward as quickly and as swiftly as possible. So next week we're going to have Discovery. I think that's going to be an appropriate title for what goes on with Kane next week, Discovery. And apparently that's where we find out what each side is working with. So what evidence does Juliet have? What any evidence that Leslie has on her case, she has to put it out there so that the lawyers can see everything. It was a little bit, I guess, surprising to me that in order to bolster her case now, Juliet went to Hillary to ask if Hillary would be her witness. And Hillary immediately says, no, girl, you are on your own from now on. Juliet was majorly offended by this. You're the one who encouraged me to go forward with this angle, with this lawsuit, and now you won't even help me if I'm on fire? What's going on here? And I can understand why at this point Hillary's wanting to pull back any association she has with this. It is a bad look on her, but Leslie can absolutely still compel Hillary to testify. Just serve her with a subpoena and she's gonna have to tell anything and everything that she knows. At the very least, Hillary would have to hand over the secret footage where she recorded Juliet essentially just telling the truth about her side of, or the truth as we know it, her side of the situation of what happened in Tokyo. And that footage, also from a neutral perspective, does make it seem like Juliet is being honest, at the very least, that there was a sexual encounter. But it also happens to have Juliet saying that it's fine, it was just a one-night thing, it's not a big deal, we got over it. So I don't know, part of me thinks that the discovery element of this is going to be fleshing out, forcing Hillary to flesh out that tape. And at that point, once that tape is out there, there's no way that Lily can't see it. It may hurt Juliet's case actually, but it's going to hurt more Kane's marriage. Mariah gave Lily a heads up that Hillary is working on this story, and Lily immediately went to confront Hillary. Those two are oil and water. They do not mix, and yet at the same time it's such a great viewing experience. I really like Hillary and Lily as forever enemies. I don't even want them to ever develop a friendship at this point. I like the dynamic because they're just so different. They're just two different people, and I don't know that their worldviews are ever gonna mesh. And so I kind of like Lily always being her snooty self looking down on Hillary, and I kind of like Hillary wanting to push Lily off of her pedestal. It's a good dynamic between them. It was also interesting this week that Lily reminded us how when Hillary first came into town, she took photos of Kane saying that they were having an affair. She took some kind of, I don't know if she got him drugged, I barely remember this, but she must have drugged him up or something and took some photos to make it look like they were having an affair. And I can't entirely remember why. Was it all connected to Hillary wanting to get revenge on Neil for what happened with her mother? Is that what it was? I'm trying to remember. It's been a little while. Did anybody else notice that Neil was basically on the ex-girlfriend tour this week? Neil had a meeting with Victoria this week. Remember when they were engaged? And then he turned around and had a meal with Leslie. Remember when they were engaged? I have a feeling that next week's discovery is going to force the truth to come out one way or another. There was a really interesting scene between Devon and Kane this week where Devon encouraged Kane to just be honest. If there is anything to the story that Juliet is telling, you better tell my sister, because if she finds out about it another way, you're going to be in a whole world of trouble. And then at the very end of Friday's show, it almost looked like Kane was coming home to do just that. But what he comes home to find was Jordan comforting Lily with a big old embrace. You know, I think that no matter how strong Lily is trying to be through all of this, how much trust she's trying to have in her husband, I think that doubt, little bits of doubt, are starting to chip away at her confidence in Kane based on just sheer where there's smoke, there's fire, and then also the way he's acting a little bit on edge. And Jordan, at the same time, is starting to see a version of Hillary that he doesn't like. And he does try to appeal to her this week, saying, are you really thinking about what you're doing? He realizes that Hillary is neck deep involved in this lawsuit, and not only is it hurting Lily, and not only is it hurting Kane, but it's hurting him. He works at Brash and Sassy. If this company goes down, then it's going to ruin a great gig, a great career opportunity for him too. So he is starting to distance himself from Hillary. He actually tells Lily that it's pretty much over between him and Hillary. So Jordan's going to be single, and Kane is in the doghouse. Hey Lily, I hear that Jordan loves souffle. Things are gonna get so bad between Victoria and Kane and Lily, especially when at the very least Victoria finds out that Kane hasn't been entirely forthright with her, that both families are going to forbid Reed and Maddie from dating each other. I think that Victoria is probably going to approach it from a business angle, telling Reed that he can't see Maddie because of the litigation and everything that's going on, and you know, we think of the business, think of the family business, my business could be going under. I think she's going to try to guilt him that way, and Kane is just going to think that Reed is a lazy punk musician kid and not want his perfect daughter to be soiled hanging out with someone like him. Honestly, it seems to me that Maddie is far more mature and capable of good decision making than Kane is at this point. The other obstacle, of course, is Reed and Charlie's feud. Reed was hanging out this week at the Chancellor Outdoor Cafe, thinking about and trying to find out where Maddie is. He wasn't able to get her last name or her phone number at the open mic last week, so he's been spending all this time thinking about this girl that he really wants to get to know, but he doesn't have any way to get into contact with her. So when she shows up at the cafe, he is elated. He asks her to give him her phone number, which she does. She hands over those digits, even though she's very tight with them. You know, she doesn't just give them out to everybody. She obviously likes him, or she wouldn't be giving him her number. And I just thought it was cute to see them, the push and pull that were going on. They're chatting it up. They're getting to know one another. Everything was going great until Charlie shows up. And Reed is stunned. Why would a sophisticated young lady like Maddie be hanging out with a sweat sock like Charlie? What could be the connection between these two? Oh, he's your twin brother? Oh, that was a real wet blanket on the moment. And Charlie was just relishing the realization that he was ruining that moment for them. Did you see the look on his face? He was so happy that he was ruining it for Reed. And then just like that, he whisks her away. He whisks Juliet away from her Romeo. Billy moves in with Phyllis this week. I guess Summer really does not live in that apartment anymore. Summer doesn't exist anymore. Summer has been erased from the landscape because I can't imagine all three of them living together. That place is Phyllis's apartment now. Billy and Phyllis have taken it over. There was a funny scene of Billy showing up with his stuff all over the middle of the apartment. He's got tennis rackets and golf clubs and boxes galore. Phyllis took it all in stride, and I liked it. I love these two. They're really quirky. They have so much chemistry together, but it is bittersweet because it comes at a cost for Victoria. She missed out. She missed the train. She messed up. She pushed him away one too many times, and now she doesn't have him. But I was glad that at least Billy has made his decision. I don't get this feeling that he's wavering back and forth between the two, and I do appreciate that, at least for the moment. He's being honest about his relationship with Phyllis. They're not hiding it anymore. He even told Victoria about his change of address, that he's moving in with Phyllis, and Victoria handled it very maturely. She's not going out of her way to do anything underhanded. She's not cutting Phyllis down at any opportunity that she gets. I mean, honestly, Victoria was handling it a little more maturely than Nick was. Billy and Phyllis showed up at the underground this week, and Nick did not bother to hide the fact that he does not like Billy. He feels that Billy has put his sister through the ringer, flip-flopping back and forth between he and Phyllis. And I tell you what, I really loved that Phyllis took Nick aside and said to him, you know what? Give Billy a break. Stop being a hypocrite. You think I had fun waiting around for you to choose between me and Sharon? That was such a great moment. That needed to be said. I really appreciated Gina Tognoni in that moment too, because I had just read an interview with her in my CBS Soaps In Depth, where she was talking a little bit about how she was approaching the character of Phyllis, because in that moment I did have a realization that Gina Tognoni's Phyllis is so much different than Michelle Stafford's Phyllis, and Gina had said in this interview that I read that she decidedly did not try to play it the way that Michelle Stafford played it. She decided that she was going to play it the way it felt right to her, and it obviously has worked out for her. She just won another Emmy. A lie of omission is still a lie. That was the quote that I plucked out of last week's show. Very few people guessed it. It was Sharon who made that comment on last Friday's show, talking to Noah about Tessa, saying, you know, she may not be telling you an outright lie, but a lie of omission is still a lie. It was a moment, and it was a little bit rich coming from Sharon. She's told quite a few lies of omission. I was hoping that you guys would catch it because it was just on that last Friday episode before I did the Sunday chat, but it really could have been anybody. But I gotta give some big congratulations to T. Nicole and Aaron and Henry, because all three of you guessed that it was Sharon, and that was a hard one. So I got to give you big props on that. I have a new one for you this week. It's another moment where I just wonder if you guys caught it, and it was a funny little line, which was, "Go get 'em, Tiger." It was cute, and if you caught it, I think you'll know who said it. And go to yrchat.com and leave your guess, because if you get it right, I will give you your very own shout out on next week's Y&R Chat. And now my favorite part, your comments. Let's read off some of the comments that I've gotten from you guys over the week. Consuela left me a comment at yrchat.com saying, "I really hope Y&R invests in a high school set. I would love to see the teens interacting in their hallways at school and dealing with the usual teenage drama. I also hope when Faith comes back that they age her and give her more of a storyline. I think it would be cool to see Reed and Faith have a close bond as cousins. Well, first of all, do you guys remember when we did have a high school set? It goes right back to those Glow by Jabot kids. We had a Walnut Grove set. I remember the lockers. I remember them hanging out in the halls. It was kind of cool and fun for the summer. The thing though about Reed and Charlie and Maddie is that they go to different schools, right? I'm almost wondering if maybe something's gonna go down at the schools where, I don't know, the kids have to transfer for one reason or another and they all three end up at the same school. Then it would be cool to have a high school set. And I also have to say, I really wish they would age Faith. It's not right that she's still a little girl and Charlie and Maddie are teens. I know that Y&R wants to hang on to that little actress, but I think Faith is going to add something to this younger cast. So I think they're probably just trying to hold out as long as they can, but I think we're getting to where maybe we need to do that. Tawny on YouTube also says, I'm waiting for Faith to suddenly pop up as a teen and she and Charlie can become an item, right? That would be definitely another way to continue to ignite the feud between Reed and Charlie. If Charlie was dating Faith and if Maddie was dating Reed. Okay, so I've gotten a lot of comments this week about the validity of Juliet's case. Kiki on YouTube says, I think Juliet does have a valid case. Although unintentional, Kane did make Juliet's work environment uncomfortable. He kept bringing up their indiscretion in the workplace when she asked him to stop. I think it would be interesting. I probably should have done some research on this to really understand what is the definition of a sexual harassment lawsuit. I think where Juliet's case falls apart is that she's claiming a quid pro quo, and that definitely didn't happen from what we have, as the viewers, have seen. Did Kane make her work environment uncomfortable? Yeah, I think he did. It was just like I've said for the past couple weeks. He couldn't stop picking at the scab, and I can understand where she would be tired of hearing about it. But I don't know if that technically would be defined as sexual harassment. Anna left me a voicemail saying that Juliet has no case against Kane, and here's why. Juliet had every opportunity to say no to the sex, to turn around, leave his room, and there would have been no repercussions with her job. That is the correct point, I think, Anne. I think we can kind of all agree on that, right? It wasn't a sex in exchange for position. That narrative was created by Hillary, which for some reason Juliet just decided to go along with. Juliet has made some poor life decisions here also. I like this comment from Marianne at yrchat.com. She says, the show could have avoided this story, the new character, and still accomplished the unraveling of Kane's career and marriage. Marianne says, I read a review of a show where a critic said, if you remove a character and the storyline still goes in the same direction, that character is not essential. Juliet is a wasted character. Kane's actions regarding Billy, the gambling reference, and the hockey ad would have eventually led to trouble in his career and marriage. Victoria is more likely to fire Kane for what he did with Billy than the sexual harassment lawsuit. Lily, who has been unfaithful in her marriage but always ethical and career-wise, would have a valid reason to be upset with Kane and believe he's a bad example for their children. I really thought that was an insightful connection into the show, that Juliet's character was never necessary for accomplishing what Y&R maybe wanted to do with Kane and Lily and their marriage and their family. It is unfortunate that it went in this direction. And Marion left me a comment at yrchat.com saying it would have been more interesting if Juliet would have stopped at nothing to get to the top at Brash and Sassy, namely by blackmailing Kane and revealing something had happened between them when it did not. I agree with both of these points. I do think it's an unfortunate direction that Y&R decided. I don't know, did they just get it in their heads that they wanted to do a sexual harassment thing? Because they did it sorta with Gloria and then tying it in now with Juliet. I'm thinking also about a voicemail that Sharita had left me saying that maybe Hillary was at the center of both of these sexual harassment things, or that seemed to be her issue, that really just touched a nerve with her, that maybe Hillary had been sexually harassed at some point, that might tie in her character a little closer to this story, make a little bit more sense. But as Marion says, I think it would have been more interesting to see Juliet having duped Kane or heading in that direction. Maybe not as original, but certainly would have been a little more comfortable. And I also love this comment at yrchat.com from Superplex saying, Juliet appears to be as pliable as clay. Did she recoil from proceeding with the lawsuit because she's hiding a deep, dark secret of the past? It was very shocking to me that all it took was Kane's single plea for Juliet to change her mind entirely. It didn't really even take that long. The only thing I can offer by way of an excuse is maybe that Juliet was on the fence anyway because she knows that it's wrong on some level. She knows that she's twisting the truth on some level. But as you said, Superplex, I had that notion too. She said, you know, the Newmans are going to drag me through the mud. I don't want to go through this. And that made me think that something about her was going to come out in the wash, such as maybe she's done this before. But then on Friday's show, I think Michael had done some kind of dossier, put together a dossier on her and said that she was squeaky clean. So that took that thought out of my mind. But it is still a possibility that something could come out of left field as far as Juliet's character. Daisy on Facebook left me a message saying, Kane's lies will come out if Juliet has some type of evidence. She must have something to show the court. Why else would she pursue a lawsuit? I wonder if she videotaped her encounter with Kane. So, as Superplex said, maybe she's hiding a deep, dark secret. It could be that. Just because she didn't do something dark in the past doesn't mean she didn't do something dark right now. I mean, videotaping with Kane, I mean, first of all, you make a good point, Daisy. Why would she even think that she had a leg to stand on? And why would Leslie take the case if they had nothing, no witnesses, no nothing, and all they were hinging it on was maybe Hillary's testimony? There has to be something more. There has to be something more that we know. That's a really good prediction, though. If Juliet has something, I mean, like a camisole cannot be a piece of evidence. It would have to be something hard. So I think that is a real possibility about the videotape. I guess we'll find out how insidious Juliet really is. Connor also at yrchat.com left me a good one. He says, what I'm waiting for is the whodunit when Juliet comes out murdered. Oh, man. She would be a good character to kill off too. They could just like wipe her off the face of the canvas and I don't think anybody would mind. Not that the actress isn't doing a good job, because she's doing just fine. And I don't dislike the actress on any level. It's just too bad that it's ruining the character at all for me. Oh, okay. So Gary left me a voicemail this past week. And a few weeks ago, I had asserted a theory that Graham might be a long-lost half-brother to the Abbott children. And once again, the direction kind of seemed like it was steering away from that a couple of episodes later. But Gary picked up on something this week that still might be true. Gary had honed in on a line that Dina said. She told Jack, you act like you're in competition with Graham. And Gary thought that it almost seems like Graham is being programmed to be the anti-brother to Jack, the anti-brother, the Adam Newman kind of thing. Now, you know, my little ears started ringing when I heard that, because I like the brotherly rivalry type of story, and I think that it would just have been such a phenomenal twist if Graham would have turned out to be a half-brother. And I kind of also just like the idea of Graham getting doted on, and Jack having to work a little harder for that relationship with Dina, and that becoming a bone of contention between them. So I hope you're right, Gary. I think that the jury is probably still out. Y&R's not giving us anything. I don't know if it's intentional or not. It is a little frustrating that week after week I want to know more about Graham, and I know nothing more about Graham. So I hope that, I don't know if Y&R's still kind of figuring it out as they go along, or if they've always had a plan for it, but if not, I think a long lost brother is a pretty darn good storyline idea. Oh, Anna also left me a voicemail, not happy about that flashback scene with back in the 60s with young John Abbott and Jack. Anna says, John Abbott saying to his 15-year-old son, "I'm gonna need your help," was completely out of character. Anna says, I've been watching since 1981. John Abbott's one of my favorite characters. He would say to his son, everything is gonna be okay. We'll get through it together. But he would never say, I'm gonna need your help. I hadn't even thought of that, Anna. I was just taken aback by how much the actor looked like he could have been a young John Abbott, but you make a really good point. John Abbott was always very comforting, very supportive. He probably would not have intentionally put that type of pressure on Jack, but it's also one of those things maybe that, I don't know if you guys have this, but have your parents ever said something to you that was probably a blow-off comment to them, just something that they made where as a young person, you took that comment, you remembered it, and you applied it, maybe even fiercely. And now, I guess as a parent, I think about, gosh, there are things that like my mom has said to me that pissed me off, even as a child, and that have my personality is maybe formed around that. Like I decided to be the opposite of that, or I decided to be that, or whatever it was. And then now as a parent, I'm coming full circle and I'm thinking, I gotta watch myself because I don't want to say something critical to my daughter, for instance, that gives her a complex. Like there's any number of ways that you can give your child a complex. I almost wonder if maybe it was, I'm gonna just choose to believe that maybe it was just one of those like, you're gonna have to help out here, son, kind of things that maybe Jack took as very intense because it was a very intense moment. I don't know. I'm just trying to help you come to terms with it, Anna. Oh, that's what we gotta do, I guess. We just gotta roll with it. I like this comment also from Lot Fally at yrchat.com saying, over the past year, it seems to me that Ashley has begun to fill the void of the wise woman / matriarch left by Catherine's passing. Her interactions with Jack, Dina, Billy, and others have highlighted Eileen Davidson's character through her character's strength and compassion. She serves as a moral compass and conscience when those around her are making bad choices. Sorry, I didn't do a very good job of reading that. But I mean, in essence, I like what we're seeing with Ashley's character too. A few months ago, she was coming off as very busybody, and now she's really elevating herself, thanks in part to Ravi, I think. She's really trying to be compassionate and be wise, and in a way, maybe Ashley is filling a little bit of that void that John left in the Abbott family. I also have to mention one more comment from Anna because this is good and I wonder if anybody else is thinking this too. Anna says, Billy is moving in with Phyllis and Jill is never around. Is this the end of the Chancellor Mansion? I hope not. But I hadn't thought of that either, but are we ever going to see the Chancellor place again? Anna said she was imagining seeing Kevin and Delia and Chloe hanging out there with Esther. I mean, I want the Chancellor Mansion to be filled again. I mean, they went to all the trouble of restoring that set, and now who lives there? Jill and Colin are coming back this summer, so I'm sure we're going to see them there. I'm going to hope that Jill becomes a major storyline player when she does come back and that we get to see that set some more. Good comment, Anna. I'm thinking of you and I'm sending you some positive vibes. Sharita also had left me a voicemail, and I saw a few people saying similarly this week. Sharita says, Scott had more spark arguing with Abby than having sex with Sharon. Yeah, I did see a couple people say that they weren't really feeling the Sharon and Scott thing. And I'm with you. I know. It is a little off-putting because I started out this journey with Sharon and Scott a little bit cold to it, and then I just sort of was like, I'm gonna get on board, I'm gonna go with it. I gotta go because they're giving me summer heat and I'm gonna try to feel it. I'm gonna try to soak up some of those summer rays. So I did just try to go with it, and I felt a little better as the week progressed, and seeing that he was a sweet guy, and that helped me wrap my brain around it. But I know what you mean. It's not gonna be one of the great romances of Y&R history. Sharon and Scott are not gonna be Sharon and Nick. They just aren't. So I'm gonna enjoy it for what it is now and wait for Sharon and Nick to get back together in a couple of months. That's what I'm waiting for. Let's see here. Oh, Beatrice at yrchat.com says, does Dr. Harris seem shady? Maybe it's just me. And then Rocks Grace on YouTube says, how long was this doctor supposed to look over Chloe? Did he think that they would fall in love and get married or something? It makes no sense. So what is up with this doctor? I, like Beatrice, have a weird vibe from him. Something about him is not right. He's a hermit. I mean, nothing against hermits because I'm practically there, but there's just something about him that doesn't feel right. And then Rocks Grace mentioned about maybe he thinks that he was going to fall in love with Chloe and get married. I do kind of wonder if maybe Dr. Harris was starting to fall in love with Chloe. Is there any chance that he's gonna get a hold of that gun and decide to try to off Kevin or something, and then Kevin has to kill him in return? I really don't know. I do know that we still have several weeks with Greg Ricart. I think he is not slated to leave the show for another month or two. So we're going to continue to see this storyline unfold, and I am not sure where in the heck is going. And I gotta work some magic like I did getting on board with Sharon and Scott, because I'm not feeling anything that's going on with Chloe and Kevin, and maybe it's adding the mental component of feeling sad that Greg Ricart's leaving the show, but I'm not here for this right now. I need to work my magic and try to get on board with all this craziness. Okay, my Y&R loving friends, that does it for me for this week, but I do hope that you come back next week to chat with me, because there may be a soap giveaway. Oh yes, that's right, I have been working on summer soaps. And I do have a couple of news, and I do have a couple of recurring ones, and some ones that have been very much requested. So if you come back next week, there's a real good chance you'll have an opportunity to win some of my homemade soap bars. So tune in next time, and you can go to yrchat.com to leave me your comments about the show. I love when you're chatting along with the current week's show. So please feel free to use the blog to leave those comments as you're watching. yrchat.com. I also have the Twitter, I have the Facebook, I have YouTube where you can leave comments right there if that's where you're watching the video. There's the podcast, which you can find on iTunes, and you can leave comments and all of that stuff in any of those places. I love hearing from you, and I will look forward to coming back next week to chat about our show. And watch Bold and the Beautiful, you guys! I'm about a week behind, but I'm excited about that one too. And when I started watching Bold and the Beautiful, it wasn't as good as it is now. Maybe I'm just into it more, but I think now would be a good time to pick it up. So if you got some spare time, give that a try. But you got to prioritize your Y&R. We have to have priorities. Oh, okay, everybody. I'll see you next week. I love ya. Bye.